Tender, juicy rotisserie chicken that you can make at home, it's easier than you think. This rotisserie style chicken comes together in minutes. Let me show you how. Hey everybody, I'm Kelly with the Suburban Soapbox, and today we are making my favorite roast chicken ever. This rotisserie style chicken is seasoned with really flavorful spices, and it just makes for a tender, juicy chicken with really no effort at all. What you're going to need for your rotisserie chicken is obviously a roasting chicken. I like to stick with something on the smaller side, like 5 pounds, 7 pounds maybe. It just roasts a little easier, a lot faster, and you end up with a juicier chicken overall. The spices that you're going to need are smoked paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, ground pepper, cayenne or chili, like a chili seasoning would work, dried thyme, rubbed sage, which is also like a dried sage, and salt. You're gonna need a lot of kosher salt. Kosher salt, not all of them are the same, so you're going to want to pick like a really granular kosher salt. If you have something that's a little more fine, you're gonna use a little less of it because that flavor is much more intense. If you have a more granular kosher salt, then you're going to need the whole 4 tablespoons that the recipe calls for. So I'm just gonna mix all of my seasonings in a bowl, and this is just essentially a poultry rub. The seasonings mimic the flavors of like a rotisserie chicken that you would get at the grocery store. Yet because this is a rotisserie style chicken, we're actually not going to put it on a rotisserie and spin it around the oven. We're going to just put it on a baking sheet and stick it in the oven and roast it as we would a regular roasting chicken. So we're going to add all of the seasonings, the smoked paprika, the garlic powder, the onion powder, pepper, cayenne pepper or chili spice, the dried thyme, the dried sage, and our large dose of salt. And you just want to whisk all of this together with a fork. Now this makes a lot of rub. So if you have any left over, you can certainly just stash this in your spice cabinet. It's great on just regular chicken breast or use on vegetables. It can be used as like an all-purpose seasoning. And so that's all mixed together. Get rid of some of our bowls. And now the chicken. So this chicken has been patted dry. It was not washed with soap and water. That's not necessary. So you just want to pat it dry so that the seasoning adheres to the chicken. You also want to take out any giblets that may be stuffed inside the cavity. So I'm going to take my baking sheet. We're just going to put the chicken on the baking sheet. And if you're planning to use the remainder of your rub for other purposes, make sure you're like dipping into it with a spoon because you're gonna be touching a raw chicken. There's a lot of cross-contamination that can happen here. So you wanna make sure if you're going to plan to like use the rest later, you don't wanna contaminate your spice. You wanna get underneath the skin. So you kind of wanna work very carefully, your fingers in between the skin and the breast. And this makes sure that you get all that seasoning up against the meat. And so you'll just carefully loosen that up, being careful not to puncture the skin with your fingernails. And you want to get in over the legs. So we'll just stick your fingers under there and you'll feel it separate. Try not to be squeamish about it. So I'm not using this for anything else. So I'm just going to dig in with my fingers. And you just want to take some of the rub and sprinkle it underneath and spread it around under the skin. And this is seasoning the meat directly. You can do this in advance. It's great to do this the night before and just store it in your refrigerator. You can store it in the refrigerator covered or uncovered, it doesn't matter. Just be aware of cross-contamination. And then we're gonna sprinkle it on the outside as well, rub it in. And make sure that you season the inside in the cavity, and then you want to flip your bird over, and we're going to do the other side. Flip it back. And now I'm going to wash my hands real quick. At this point, you want to add some aromatics to the cavity, and you can certainly leave this empty if you like. It's going to cook much faster if you don't stuff anything in there. But I like to add a little bit more flavor just by adding a chopped up onion. You can use a lemon, a couple lemon wedges, maybe some extra thyme sprigs or sage, whatever you want, you can stuff inside that cavity. Just be careful that you're not overstuffing it, because it will tend to make your chicken take a little bit longer to cook, which can in turn make your chicken breast like really dry if you overcook it. So we're just gonna cut up some onion. Nothing fancy. I'm just gonna cut it in quarters. Probably don't even need the whole onion. Remove the skin, like the papery part. Cut it a little bit smaller since this is a smaller bird. I'm just going to stuff that inside. Just like that. Then you want to take your scissors, cut off some kitchen twine. So we want to tie the chicken legs together so that your chicken cooks evenly. There we go. Pull it tight. Tie it. Okay, that's it. So now we're just going to roast it in a 425-degree oven for about an hour. If you find that the top of your chicken is starting to brown a lot faster than the rest, then you can certainly cover that with some foil. I like to roast my chickens in a flatter baking sheet, because the sides of a higher roasting pan don't allow even browning. And when you're making a rotisserie style chicken, you kind of want it golden brown all around. A flat baking sheet does a very good job of ensuring that your chicken is roasted and golden and crispy all the way around. So our chicken is done. Just pulled it out of the oven. It's tender and juicy, definitely not overcooked. You want to check the temperature. So when you check the temperature, you're going to put an instant read thermometer right here in the medius part of the thigh. Your chicken should register 165 degrees Fahrenheit. You also want to make sure that you rest your chicken for about 20 to 30 minutes. You can cover it with foil and just allow it to rest so that all of the juices redistribute throughout the meat. While the chicken is cooking, those juices kind of just get restricted out of the meat and they're floating around in the skin. If you cut your chicken at that point, all of the juices will flow out all over the pan, and then you won't have a tender and juicy chicken. So I'm just gonna cut a little bit of the breast off here. I love the crispy skin. Oh, it's so juicy. You can actually see like the juice coming out here. So flavorful. Let me take a little bite. That is so good. So much flavor. Definitely not dry. It is the perfect roast chicken. If you like this recipe, please be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. For more easy recipes, visit thesuburbansoapbox.com. Thanks again.